Welcome to Coming Home, Survive and Thrive in Homeschooling. Recently, a question came my way regarding disruptive dynamics in homeschooling circles. I've spent a little while thinking about it, and today I'm going to give you what my opinion is on this. Over the last 2 or 3 years, there has been an exponential rise in the number of homeschoolers. Rapid growth in anything brings challenges as well as positives. One of the positives has been the recognition that our way of life has been rightly seen as a valid alternative and embraced by so many. We cheered and were heartened by the many now seeking an alternative way of living. It's always nice to feel validated, and perhaps we could admit to a little bit of, "I told you so." However, large numbers of people moving into any space, whether homeschooling or a country, brings assimilation issues. Many blend in well, adopting the rhythm and program of the homeschooling activities. But there's something else going on in homeschooling circles which hasn't been seen before, and there's a genuine concern and puzzling over what to do about it. When we were homeschooling, this wasn't an issue. Homeschoolers, for the most part, chose it for the lifestyle as well as the benefits for their children. It was a strategic family decision, implementing whatever was necessary to make the years at home as good as they could be. There were some who homeschooled as a reaction to what had happened to their child, or if the school was unable to meet the needs of their child. But for the most part, newcomers adapted quickly to the homeschooling world because basic human psychology says individuals will conform to the group they are in. But what happens when the numbers of newcomers create a tipping point where the dynamics are disrupted? To put it simply, some of the new homeschoolers' behaviour could be disruptive, with some parents unwilling to step in and curb it, resulting in some established members of the group becoming concerned and confused, rapidly followed by frustration, with the high possibility of leaving. One of the identified issues is the parents who wanted to leave the school system and join the homeschooling world without being willing to take on what the lifestyle needs. It's being seen as some parents are unaware that there are different expectations and or an unwillingness to adapt to the changes necessary to become part of the group. Modern parenting philosophy is usually child-focused. It can be to the point of the child influencing the parent's manner of parenting consistently. The situation of the child controlling the adult isn't good parenting philosophy, and whilst I agree a parent should listen to a child, I firmly hold that the parent has authority over the child in a manner that is loving, gentle, and firm. This is how I see the love of God towards us, and He is my model. Slow to anger, forgiving, but following through with consequences, with grace accompanying action. A goal I would fall short on, I admit. It has been posited by some parents asked to adhere to guidelines or to control the behaviour of their children that the group isn't being inclusive. Oh, such a buzzword at the moment, and often used to justify bad behaviour or to insist on the established group or club to accept unconditionally what is usually unacceptable behaviour. Inclusivity cuts both ways. How about including the guidelines of the group you want to join to demonstrate you're ready to be included in said group? To accuse a group of not being inclusive because your child consistently misbehaves or your unwillingness to parent is gaslighting. Don't make your problem the fault of someone else. I suspect this phenomenon is happening anywhere where homeschooling is growing rapidly, and I would value your feedback on this. I have a story for you of what happened in my youth group days. A group of boys, a small group, joined our youth group. They probably came for the girls. The boys were not Christians, and they brought with them some disruptive behaviour that very quickly it was clear it was not going to be dealt with. I think the youth group leaders were well intended. They were hoping to influence these young men to keep coming to youth group and church and be saved. That's the purpose, or one of the purposes of an evangelical Christian group. Sounds fair. But as time went by, some of the other kids in the youth group, good kids, stopped coming. Some of the girls were attracted to the naughty, sometimes behaviour, slightly disruptive behaviour of some of these boys. So the outcome of all of this over the period of time that these boys stayed in our youth group was that good kids stopped coming and lost their youth group. Some girls were influenced, not for good. Some of them even left. And those boys that came in never became Christians. No matter which way you looked at that result, something was missing. Something was done wrong. And I think the youth group leaders and all the parents involved meant well. But they didn't understand the consequences of what might happen if their good intentions failed. I leave that example with you as a principle of what I am trying to convey today. We can start off with really good intentions of wanting to include other people, hoping that our influence on them will create behaviour and change in their life that is part of the group, but it can often backfire. My suggestions after mulling this through and talking it through with some homeschooling parents are as follows. Firstly, resist an us and them attitude becoming ingrained, which is best avoided by implementing these suggestions. So decide on what guidelines and rules are for your group. Number 2, communicate them clearly to the parents and children joining your group. Be clear about what will happen if there is continuing poor behaviour. 4, teach your children how to handle what they know is unacceptable when something happens out of range of the parents. 5, don't hesitate to limit association between your children and theirs or implement gradually. We need to follow our parenting instinct and common sense when we know the atmosphere has changed. 6, be supportive of those wanting to improve or learn parenting skills. Initiate parenting classes to help them. And this will take time. It's a whole new learning curve when parenting has been delegated for years. from when the child was very young all the way through to whenever they left the school to come homeschooling. It's unreasonable to expect quick change, but it is reasonable to expect the willingness to and evidence change is happening. A new or adapted parenting philosophy is hard work and will take determination, sacrifice, and the humility to admit change is necessary. Be gracious and humble yourself. This is a learning experience for you too. 7. For those unwilling to change their parenting philosophy, suggest they form their own homeschool groups where their children's behaviour is acceptable to that group. 8. Speak the truth in love and be firm and clear. 9. Do not make it your mission to help all the other parents parent their children. Your responsibility is primarily to your children. Yes, you can be supportive and show love, but do not get involved beyond keeping to the group's guidelines. This is a version of tough love, and you're doing it for your children because that's why you're homeschooling. Tiptoeing around bad behavior and being kind without being firm will result in your children's behavior deteriorating, stressing your family unnecessarily, and doesn't do anything to help the unacceptable behavior of the other children, and it certainly doesn't help the unwilling parents to gather courage and take responsibility for the behavior of their children and their own poor parenting. You'll be doing society a favour by insisting on acceptable behavior by child and parent. 10. In the real world, if you don't keep by a club or a group's guidelines or rules, you might get a warning, but you will most certainly be asked to leave if you don't change your behavior to match the rules of the group you want to be in. 11. The sooner children learn acceptable social behavior, the better off we will all be. I mentioned organising a parenting course or seminar. A quick word about how to go about this. Choose someone whom you can see the fruit of in their parenting and not just a theorist. Their children should be grown rather than young. Hiring a child psychologist may not be the best option here. I'm hearing it being said that parents are suspicious of experts. With the last 3 years in mind, and many for whom the system has let them down, this is understandable. But be sure of the speaker's philosophy, and attendees should be expected to pay a fee. The speaker needs to know when it's time to recommend the parent see someone trained in counselling. The role of the speaker is to introduce and equip parents willing to think and learn about parenting philosophy, and not to be a personal mentor or counsellor to the attendees. This is a tricky issue about disruptive dynamics currently in homeschooling circles, but I think it's really important to be willing to do something about it. It's not going away anytime soon because it's a sign of the times that we are living in. There's absolutely no doubt it will bring growth in your character as you tackle it. Your children need to see you be strong, firm, and loving, and make decisions that are for their good rather than just walk away from a problem. However, walking away is the option when you've done all the above and not much has changed. That takes wisdom and courage. But you are a strong parent and you can do this. Let me sum up by simply saying, be crystal clear on your responsibility to your children. Next week, I will be coming back to you with part 3 of the system failing our children, what's happening and what you can do about it. So I hope you have a great week. Enjoy the winter if you are in the southern hemisphere, and if you're in the northern hemisphere, you're now on your summer break, and I hope that goes wonderfully for you too. I'll catch up with you next time. Bye for now.